Hello and welcome to Today. I'm Will and I'm talking about the crimes I've committed in not reading these books. Some are a bit more personal because there are some genres and subgenres I say I love and then I haven't read the most famous of them all. And others are wider, the titans of genres, the titans of literature that I should have picked up. I've been a bit more conscious about this lately. I've picked up some like Dracula, but there are many gaps in my reading knowledge, which is great because it means I've got many possible favourites that I'll be picking up. Here are 10 that I will receive my reading licence once I've read them. Book 1 is The Will of the Many by James Islington. This is not a classic, I know, but it could be a new one. It has exploded onto the scene. It has over 100,000 ratings on Goodreads and everyone is just raving about it. It is crazy. I haven't seen anything like this for the last few years. I'm really looking forward to book 2. I'm very lucky I've been sent an early excerpt because my brother Ed has read The Will of the Many and said some very positive things about it. And so we have early access to a bit of book 2. But The Will of the Many, it's Roman. I'm there. There's a school sequence. I'm there. There's a rebellion. I'm there. And it's fantasy. What more could I ask for? And I've had so many people I trust really give this glowing review. So The Will of the Many, how can I call myself an active fantasy booktuber and not have read not only this, but any of his catalogue? I'm really looking forward to the release of The Strength of the Few in November. And I will not be able to face the FOMO if I don't pick this up. So I will probably in June. And then I've got, continuing with the fantasy strain, The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. This is book 1 of a heist series. It was released, I believe, in the same year as The Blade itself by Joe Abercrombie from the same publisher. So they had a bit of a rivalry, two huge guns of fantasy out in the same year. Wow, this is a lovely sprayed edges edition by The Broken Binding. This sounds very intriguing to me. I believe it has 2 different timelines and it jumps between really, really well. I'm not always a fan of that strategy, but when that structure is utilized well, it is fantastic and it has potential to reap great rewards in my opinion. So The Lies of Locke Lamora, it's heist fantasy. I believe there's 2 main characters, which are basically, one is inspired by the Artful Dodger. Maybe not consciously, but a lot of people say he is like that. And so the Artful Dodger from Oliver Twist in a fantasy setting with some high stakes heists. And so, what more could you ask for? It's meant to be very humorous, but very great standout characters, and that is the focus. I'm a character-driven reader, so it sounds like a fantasy book for me. Would you agree, knowing my other taste? But now, let's move on to some historical fiction. I've got Shogun by James Clavell. How can I call myself a historical fiction lover when I haven't read this? Especially with a recent adaptation, I've really been missing out. I haven't watched it because I want to read it first. I can't commit further sacrilege. I can't not read it and then watch the programme first. That would be going too far. At least at the moment, I can still rectify my mistakes and pick this up. It's another one I'm intending to read in summer 2025 and then I can watch the programme. I know there's a bit of controversy about season 2. It's going off the root material. Will it be another classic example of a programme going too far, trying to cash in on money and going wrong? We don't know. Maybe. But I'm really looking forward to reading Shogun. I think I'll even enjoy it more than the average reader because many people I know, Papa Gwynne, Ed and many other people I've talked to, felt a bit disappointed by the ending because there's something they're expecting and it didn't happen. But I'm illuminated to that and so I won't be expecting it and so I won't have that disappointment. So it end even more satisfyingly for me. And again, I'm a character-driven reader. I love political intrigue. That is just spiced around in here. Sounds like a great balance. And even though it's a bit of a chunker of a book, it is meant to be absolutely gripping and what people call a page-turner. And then next up, I've got something which is probably my biggest crime of all. I talk about Robin Hobb a lot on this channel, on the channel of the Brothers Gwynne, and to everyone I talk to, I try to throw the books in their direction. And there's so many that they're often buried under them. Actually, I had all of Robin Hobb's books that are in that shelf there above my bed once. Not a good idea, because in the night, the shelf gave way, and I found myself buried under books. But at least they're Robin Hobb books, so it was okay. But I have to admit, as I have many times, and my brother Ed loves to mock me for it, I have not read The Live Ship Traders by Robin Hobb. This is said by many to be Robin Hobb's best series outside of her final Fitz and the Fool trilogy. And so, what am I doing? Especially with Chris and Mads loving this so much, it's really been highlighting what a fool I've been. When I read it originally, I skipped the series without Fitz in it. It was a crime, and I accept that I am guilty as charged, and I will try to get to these as soon as possible. I'm actually currently rereading the Farseer trilogy, and I'm listening to them, which is great, seeing it in a different format. And then once I've listened to Assassin's Quest, I will pick the live ships up physically, and I cannot wait, if only just to stop Ed's mocking of me. You know what? I cannot let my brother get that many points against me. Talking about my favourite series, and he has now read the live ships before me. So I can't recuperate that, but I can make up and say that I've read all of Robin Hobb's books once I've read them and the Rainwild Chronicles. And so that's my biggest personal crime, and everyone should be reading Robin Hobb's books, because if you like them, they'll probably become one of your favourite books of all time. And then I've got some historical fiction. This is Dorothy Dunnett's The King Hereafter, another historical fiction classic. Jenny Wirtz recently said to me that this is one of her favourite books of all time. It is Macbeth in a historical setting, reimagined with incredible immersive historical detail, apparently. Some people say it's a little bit much. Ed said that he didn't quite click with this, but it's one that I should still try out. And so I'm really looking forward to picking this up at some point. This is an old copy of Papa Gwynne's. It's been well loved. I actually don't know if he's read it. I think he has, so I'll have to have a chat with him about that. But historical fiction, medieval period, Macbeth, I'm there. What more could you ask for? And then I've got something which is terrible. I haven't read it. I love Gothic literature. I recently read Dracula because I'd watched a few adaptations and I needed to pick it up, and I adored it. And so continuing that wave, hopefully in 2025, I'll be picking up Frankenstein, especially after I saw the trailer for Guillermo del Toro's adaptation, which looks very interesting and it's got potential. So Frankenstein, of course, the classic story of humanity playing God and the consequences of doing so. Themes of mortality, immortality, power, and can we be given too much? I love that kind of thematic work, and I love the major ideas that I explored, but I've not actually read it. I've read the play, so I'm not sure how different it is. Of course, much more dialogue heavy. I'm really looking forward to seeing Mary Shelley's writing style and filling the gaps of my Gothic knowledge. I really love that period of the late Victorian period, the rise of kind of Gothic literature. I really feel there was a new wave of showing quality of writing through accessibility, not writing the most complicated thing you can. I always think of Ernest Hemingway's quote where he said, anyone can write a book, only you understand. The hard part is writing something everyone understands. And I think that the Gothic wave of literature really embraces that. Like Dracula, there is quality dripping from every chapter. Bram Stoker was a craftsman, but it's very accessible, and it shows that complexity does not always match quality, and I really subscribe to that idea. I don't agree with academics like Harold Bloom, who often sees complexity correlating to quality and aesthetic value. I think that books that people can connect to, you need to understand a lot of the time. Some of them I love a more complicated book that you can really dive into and expose layers, but it is not a necessity. Anyway, away from that tangent, really looking forward to plugging my holes in the Gothic genre, and that will be beginning, well, not beginning, but next up will be Frankenstein. And then I've got another more personal one. I've got Dreaming the Serpent Spear. So I have to admit, I recommend the Boudica series by Amanda Scott to so many people. It is one of those series that I think transcends genre. So if you love fantasy, historical fiction, mystery, thriller, whatever you love, I think this could be a series for you. There's only 3 or 4 series or standalones I've read like that. The Wolf Den trilogy is one of those. Glorious Exploits by Fadia Lennon. I think this is another. I think it's one that potentially appeals mostly to fantasy readers, because in Papa Gwynne's it is the most epic historical fiction series you will find. A lot of fantasy readers, they're like, the thing with historical fiction is it's just not big enough. I want more. So it doesn't have dragons, but it does have an epic nature about it. And the immersion into the culture is magnificent. Amanda Scott is an incredible writer. There's animal companions. There's a small, intimate story set within a more epic one. Amanda Scott, this series really inspired Papa Gwynne, and it's one of his favourite series to date. And so I've recommended it so much, yet I haven't read the final book. That is just wrong on me. And I'm ashamed to admit it. I did read half, and then I got into exam season, and I loved it so much, and I really wanted to cherish this ending. So I left it a little bit. And then I left it so long, I thought I need to start it again. And then I started another book, and that was a year and a half ago. So shame on me. Yeah, that was bad on me. But I will be reading this from the start, and I cannot wait to finish. Well, saying that, I know how it ends in a way. Of course, I know the story of Boudica. It's not going to end great. So, do I want to inflict this pain on myself? I kind of do, because I need to know how it ends and I need that catharsis. But I also just want to imagine that they live happily ever after. Maybe I can message Amanda Scott to write an alternative ending for me. But yeah, there will be no Disney here. I don't think so anyway. So yeah, that is Boudica. And then next up, I mainly really watch crime dramas and mystery, and I love kind of the breadcrumb Hansel and Gretel kind of storyline. When it's done well, it is absolutely exceptional. But I haven't read any Agatha Christie. What is wrong with me? One of the best-selling authors, if not the best-selling author of all time. I picked this because Death on the Nile, one of her most famous novels. And what I love about them as well is that they're quite short. As a mainly fantasy reader and a lot of historical fiction as well, and lately some literary classics, so many of them are so long. And that comes with the quality. Often there's books that I love and I think, I want more. I want more of that. Give me more pages. But it's also nice to have a palate cleanser, which is a bit shorter. You can really immerse yourself into, but it doesn't leave you drained and tired at the end. And Death on the Nile seems like that. I'm collating a list at the moment of palate cleansers, of books that in between these huge tomes, like I'm reading Malazan, I can read to regenerate and experience a very different type of book and enjoy it in a very different way. I'm not saying that you shouldn't read big books. I think you should, that there is so much they can give you, but it's really nice to have a mix. And that role of different ingredients in my reading life has really stopped me having reading slumps. And I am convinced the reason is because of the mixture of variety, not just in genres and content, but in length of story and type of structure as well. And so I need to indoctrinate some Agatha Christie into my reading, especially when I do love a crime drama. I have got The Once and Future King by T.H. White. I love Arthurian legend. I absolutely adore it, some could say. And I have not read this. This is meant to be more whimsical Arthurian legend. It is 5 novellas compiled into one story together, so you can read one novella at a time, just as I was talking about with the palate cleansers. That applies here as well. I've heard that there's a philosophical edge, but also a large dose of humour, which the Arthurian legend is full of tragedy and pain and lots of pain. So it would be nice to have some humour, some laugh out loud moments. Better Call Saul series, I think, there's a few times I smile, but there's not times I feel happy, because you just know, great, doom is lurking around the corner. And so it's quite hard, even though I love that series, it's not one to make you smile. And so it'd be nice to read a slightly more heartwarming take on the Arthurian legend, one that will make me smile at times, especially as I think a few of these stories are centred on Arthur as a younger man. So at least you know what, the doom's quite a while away, so you can enjoy the moment and really take it in. It's got so many lovers, and I can't really call myself an Arthurian buff until I've read this, and I want my Arthurian literature license pretty soon. I was obsessed with it. I read a lot of the root materials like Le Morte d'Arthur, a lot of Chrétien de Troyes chivalric tales as well, and so I need to get this modern classic under my wing, and so I can fly away with my Arthurian legend card. And then that is book number 9, and I think I've only got one more because there were 10, and if I counted correctly, this will be the last one. It is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. Again, westerns, historical fiction, one of the titans that instantly springs to mind is Lonesome Dove. On top of that, Ed has been asking me to read this for years, and it's been a great disappointment to him that I haven't already. So Lonesome Dove is known as the kind of canonical Western text. It deconstructs Manifest Destiny. It's a character-driven story. It is an epic traversing across America. It's got a lot of those tropes of kind of cowboys and, as I said, traipsing across kind of the Wild West, but really stripping the romanticism away, but in a way which is also written beautifully. And Ed said that it is this stark contrast between horror and beauty, which really is compelling, especially in the nature of the characters as well. And they're explored incredibly well. They're all flawed, but you cannot help but love following them. And they're characters that you hate as well. Ed read them in chronological order rather than publishing order, but I will be starting with Lonesome Dove. And I've heard there's one character more like him and one more like me, so it'd be interesting to, when I read it, to see if I can see who is who. But yeah, they are the 10 books that are crimes that I have not read yet. The shocking gaps in my reading knowledge. There are many more as well, but these are 10 that instantly sprung to mind. And also, when I was making this list, I was thinking, what are the ones that I'm going to read soon? So at least I have an excuse to say that, don't worry, by the end of the year, I would have at least read some of these. And so next up will be The Will of the Many, and then it will be Lifeship Traders, and then probably Manda Scott's Dream in the Serpent Spear, but we will see beyond that. But hopefully, if I look at this list in a year, I can give myself a pat on the back and think, you know what? I've rectified some of my crimes. I've read some of them, and I'll be getting some book licenses soon. So I'll get back to you on that. But thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your gaps in your reading knowledge are, and let me know if you've read any of these, and are there any others that you've noticed I haven't read that I should have. That'd be interesting to add more to my TBR. And of course, this is a bit of a joke. You should never be ashamed of books you haven't read. There are so many, and it's great that there are too many books rather than too few. It means that we're always looking for that next favourite, and we're never going to run out. But this is a bit of a joke video, but also one that I do think it's important to read books that have had historical value and have connected with so many different people, partly because that's why me and my brother Ed joined this community to talk about books, but also to understand kind of the human experience and what compels people, especially as someone who one day wants to be a writer. I think it's important to kind of see what connects and why do they connect. And so that'd be interesting as well, with a slightly more analytical eye. But there we go. This is a list of some of the books I should be most ashamed that I have not read, and hopefully I will rectify that soon. But thank you so much for watching. Carpe diem.